everybody, it's Josh with Talk About Trek, and we are back. We are back today to talk about a Star Trek Voyager numbered novel. And these kind of books are they're like my bread and butter. They are my favorite kind of Star Trek books. And what do I mean by that? These kind of books. This kind of book is like a Lost Voyager episode. And I love books that read like that. So there's a lot in the TNG numbered series. I'm sure there's a lot of Deep Space Nine ones. But this one really hit for me. Basically, as you're reading it, you feel like you're watching an episode of Voyager. And even though it's an early one, so she was working off of scripts, basically, I think that she did a good job with the characters. And, you can't do too much, obviously, because you don't know too much. But with what she knew... And anyway, I'm talking about Melissa Scott. She's the author of this book. She did a fantastic job and just wrote a fun sci-fi story. There was a mystery that was, building up the whole time. And it paid off in a bit of a strange way, in a very unexpected way. And I guess the one thing I would say is there should have been more. I feel one more chapter would have been perfect. Now let's jump right into the book. From the cover, what secrets lurk on a strange world? Star Trek Voyager: The Garden. Desperately in need of vital nutritional supplies, the crew of the USS Voyager must risk dealing with an enigmatic race known as the Curse, legendary for bountiful crops of their world, and for their secretive ways. Despite Neelix's warnings, Captain Janeway leads an away team to the Curse homeworld. But when the hostile Indirum attack the Curse, Janeway finds herself caught in a deadly situation. Forced to fight alongside the Curse, Janeway and her crew can only hope that their strange new allies are not more dangerous than their common foe. Interesting. Good back cover, doesn't give away too much. So, what does Melissa remember about this book? So now we reference the wonderful book about books here. Melissa remembers writing this novel well. The Garden was much more difficult than Proud Helios. Must have been one of her earlier works. As I started working on it well before the series actually aired. While I had seen some of the actors before, there was a lot I didn't know. So all I really had to work with were a handful of scripts. Not something I would like to do again. Plus, the concept of the series changed substantially in the period between my turning in the novel and the books appearing in stores. I had been warned that it might, and tried to keep the story as self-contained as possible, but it was a tough assignment. So I wonder what was the change? So what I love about this book is that it hits on one of the fun points of Voyager, which is they are short on supplies, they are short on everything, right? So they're constantly having to look, to trade, to find a way to restock their stores, and that's exactly where this book starts out. They are not doing good, and actually the crew is starting to suffer from scurvy. Apparently in their most recent set down, they took on some food that, while at first glance seemed to be nutritional, once it was cooked, something happened to the food where it did not allow the crew to absorb the proper vitamins and nutrients that they needed, right? So now the crew is stuck, between habitable planets, falling victim to scurvy. Scurvy on Voyager, that's right. And, looking for an answer. And that's when Neelix gives him this curse planet, right? And at first he's kind of leery to send them there, but, they don't really have a choice. It's kind of this or nothing. Neelix tells them about the planet's defenses, and they've got this defense grid because they're constantly being raided by other people trying to get their bountiful resources, right? So anyway, this is the point of the story when I just start talking about the book. If you don't want to be spoiled, you will have to tune out now, right? I should get up a little bit. I feel like I should. There we go. I'm a slouch. I'm slouching. There we go. Now we're up. We're in space. So they get to the cursed planet, and they beam down there's no like contact with anybody. No one wants to contact them. They beam down and they do find this incredibly like lush planet, right? But Janeway's like, don't touch anything, don't do anything. We have to meet with them first. So, and as they're like walking closer and closer to the citadel at the center where they're trying to get to, they encounter more and more kind of strange things. One of them is one of the plants appears to have like a defense mechanism where it shoots like an egg right at you, and then the egg blows up in front of you, and then that gas makes you sleepy, right? So there's these different defenses that are happening here. Look, I did take pretty decent notes for this book too. Proud of myself, and I put a sticker in there. Sticker for my notebook. Anyway, and the other thing is that the crops and everything are all kind of tended to by these not quite animals, not quite machines, but these beings that are very shy and they kind of run away, Now they get to the Citadel, and there's an interesting part here as they're coming up to the Citadel where Harry describes what it looks like and how it kind of looks like a hybrid of a plant and an animal crouching across the path. Very like with like imagine like a tower in the middle and then like kind of things growing off of that. Organic looking, like lobed melons. I don't really know what a lobed melon is, but that's how he described it. So anyway, that's important later to remember that. So anyway, they get into the Citadel, and they are greeted with this like giant table full of food, right? And the other interesting thing that I liked about this is that all of their serving trays and serving dishes were like little robots. Like they had little legs and little things, so they were kind of like moving about themselves. And I thought that was a very cool imagery for a sci-fi like banquet. All these different serving trays walking about the table. Spoons dipping themselves and things. It was very cool. So I like that. They passed the test. Basically, the curse put all this out there to test if someone is like a person or an animal. Are they going to eat the food, or are they going to wait to ask to eat the food? So they did the right thing. They waited to ask, and then they do get to meet the curse, right? And the curse are all kind of different looking. Some have wings, some don't. But they are very formal people as well. So they have they bring everyone back for a formal dinner. Oh, and it's at this point the Voyager crew also learns that there is a human who's crash landed here years ago named Philo Revic, and he's been living here with the curse. So he kind of acts as like an introduction there, and telling them about the food, what they might like, what they probably won't like, and things like that. So anyway, they have a nice meal, and and then they basically start talking about trade, right? That's the whole idea while they're here. Now, what the curse are looking for is transporter tech. They need, and they know of transporter tech from the Revic guy, right? But they don't have the ability or the materials to make it. And then, what Voyager needs is food. So they're going to have to find a way to trade, the tech for the food without compromising Voyager stores, and also without giving them too much technology, right? So they have a yeah. Okay, where am I at? All right, so they had the dinner, they had dessert, and then the next day, Kim and Paris, they kind of go on a survey of the land, right? They're going to check everything out, see about the different crops, and that's when they see more of these gardeners, is what they call them, kind of tending the crops, and the attitude of the curse towards the gardeners, which is very much like, well, if they die, they die. That's what they're there for, and he passed that along to Chakotay, and Chakotay was really not happy with the treatment of these, animals or whatever they're going to be. So then there's this kind of like little moral dilemma, like, what do we do? Can we deal with these people even though they're maybe doing something shady? And they, decide, well, they have no choice. They need the food, they're going to have to do it. So they do come up with a plan where they're going to give the curse some transporter technology, but not like all of the transporter technology, right? So it's a good plan, and it will help them to, be more prepared for the raids when these people come. Now, speaking of the raids, there are now 5 ships approaching the planet. When they first approach, they actually hail and they say, we just want to come in to trade. We've brought all this metal and we just need some food. And the curse are in need of metal, so they do allow them to come in to trade, but it's a trap. And as soon as they kind of get close, one of these ships takes off towards the planet. It launches a bunch of drones. It launches like an extra shuttle. So now we have our little bit of an action scene for the book, And again, it's just so far it has just been like a fun episode of Voyager, right? You start out, you've got this problem. The crew has scurvy. We need to go find a planet. And then here come the credits. And after the credits, oh, look, we'll go to the cursed planet. And then you got this fun little... And everything just kind of plays out just as you would expect to see it in the episode, right? So now we're coming up to the finale of the episode, right? We're here at the final 15 minutes or whatever. And the Indirum are attacking the curse, right? So Paris is with a certain curse named Grey Rose, and they're like running, trying to get to one of the defense shuttles, basically, right? And there's not enough curse to man the shuttle, so Paris has to help her man the shuttle. So you have a fun space battle here where Paris is learning the ropes of the shuttle, and he's doing the defense while she's flying. And then back in the and basically they make it all the way up, and with the combination of their shuttles and the Voyager, they're able to drive off the Indirum. But unfortunately, in the battle, his cursed friend Grey Rose is killed, right? So they beam back to Voyager, and that's when they discover some very interesting things about Grey Rose. Mainly is that her DNA is like not complete, and basically she kind of shouldn't exist as she is, which raises some questions, right? Back in the Citadel, the Indirum shuttle has kind of bursted through all the defenses, and now their ground troops are coming in. So now you have a little scene in the Citadel where Tuvok and Torres, they run to kind of aid the Indirum, or not the Indirum, the Curse's ground troops. And the Curse, in addition to having these gardeners, they also have these soldiers that are like dwarves, and they call out all these dwarf soldiers that come out, and they battle against the Indirum soldiers with Torres and Tuvok, helping out with their phasers. The battle is hard pressed, but the battle is eventually won. They drive the Indirum from the planet, and they see them kind of like hauling away the dead bodies, saying that they're going to be used for like something, right? So then like that's that, right? But Janeway is not satisfied. She wants answers. So, and I love how this book came to a close too. Again, I could have used like one more chapter. I feel one more chapter would have kind of fleshed it out, and really, they could have added a lot more to the big reveal at the end of the curse. So anyway, Janeway wants to know, what's the deal? Can you give us some serious answers here? And they get a very, very serious, very sci-fi ending to this, right? And it's even something that Janeway herself 2 times mentions she can't quite wrap her head around the whole thing. So I like that too. That was very cool. But anyway, Curse explains, he's like, all right, fine, we'll tell you guys the truth, right? And then all of a sudden, all of the different Curse come into the room, and then they all start melting into the one main Curse dude, right? And eventually, like, they're all melted into him, and he's, like, so bright, he's, like, glowing, everyone's like, ah, but, yeah, I think that fades, and they're able to talk to him normally. But basically, Curse was everyone. Curse is one person, one being with the ability to divide himself into multiple beings. I mean, he can't go infinite. He did, like, reach a limit, and that was kind of how they realized something was going on, because he was like, well, I'm at my limit, But, and also, Curse is the Citadel. So he is the Citadel, and he is his own being, which brings back to the beginning when Harry described the Citadel as being something of a hybrid of a plant and animal crouching in his path, right? Because exactly that's what it is. The Citadel is Curse, and Curse is the Citadel, and it is kind of hard to wrap your head around, but they are one being, and they have this beautiful planet and this garden, and they have to, defend it from raiders, basically. And again, this is where I feel they needed, like, give me some more. Give me one more chapter talking about this very, very abstract and very strange, person or race thing, right? But we got what we got, and it was good. It was good. They basically, the book closes with them closing the deal. They finish giving the transporter tech to the Curse, and they get loaded up with a ton of food. And thankfully to Janeway, one of the foods is similar to coffee. So now she's got a little bit of coffee, and that makes her happy. And then Chakotay asks, "What course do we set, Captain?" Set a course for home. And then they're on to the next episode. A perfect, nice little self-contained story, right? There is no huge focus on any one character because she didn't know the characters well enough to give them too much focus. If anyone, as the cover suggests, Janeway and Tom Paris do take the lead here. Tom gets the most action out of the book with his fight sequence in the Curse shuttle. So, but again, for an early Voyager novel, she did a great job of characterization and everything with what she had to work with. So, I'm giving a hearty 2 Vulcan salutes up to The Garden by Melissa Scott. And I'm really glad that I chose to dive back into the Voyager numbered series. And we are going to keep that up. I'm going to jump right into number 12 and just see if that gives the same vibe, that I got from Garden. Is number 12 going to be another lost episode of Voyager? What will we learn, So I'm excited to get into it. And again, it went so fast, too. I've been struggling recently to find the time, energy, motivation, whatever you need to sit down and read. But this one, we got done in a week, which is pretty good, considering before that we were talking about, maybe like a month or something. So I think we're off to a better running start for, for the year here. We kind of got off to a lumpy start, but now things are running smoothly. We're moving. We're shaking. We're getting ready. Look, we're in outer space over here. We're in outer space. We've made 401 videos on this channel, and now we're flying around in outer space. It's fantastic. So anyway, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for listening. As always, live long and prosper. We'll see you guys in the next video. Good night.